Welcome, everybody. My name is Arnab Chatterjee from Digital Transitions. I'm a product manager and technical specialist. And today I'm joined by Franz Herbert, who is the lead color technologist at basICColor. He's joining us from Austria. Say hello, Franz.
Hello, everybody.
So today we're going to talk about a couple of products that Franz has built, essentially from the ground up by himself, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. And so there are two kind of products that we're going to talk about today, and we're really going to be talking overall about color and digital color through color profiles. So there are three sort of types of color profiles. There are what we call input profiles, which are how a camera interprets color in a way that a computer will then receive that color information and interpret that color information. There's output profiles, which are how the information from your software program will sort of package that color information into a file or send it to a printer. That's something that we're not going to be talking about today because we're mostly talking about what happens in the digital realm of sort of between the camera and the computer. But the last type of profile is also very, very important for kind of like housekeeping purposes, and that is a display profile. And so that will sort of tell the computer and your monitor or your display how to accurately show the viewer or the user what exactly the object that's been interpreted by the camera looks like. And so color, of course, is extremely important to cultural heritage imaging, archival imaging, scientific imaging, and even general photographic imaging for a variety of reasons. But Franz, kind of let's talk a little bit about why ICC profiles are important. Building custom ICC profiles are important, right? Why can't we just use the color profiles that are provided by let's say the camera manufacturer or by the software that we're using?
Camera manufacturers don't care that profiles are color accurate. They want the user just to be excited about them. They want them to be punchy, bring out color where there is very little, and as thus those kind of pictures are okay to use privately, but if you are a professional, you need to take product shots or you need to photograph cultural heritage, then those are typically not very usable.
Sure. So if I'm taking my vacation photos, I've got a beautiful sunset over the beach, I'm going to get nice contrasty colors in my sky and then, nice sort of shadows on my, foreground or whatever I'm looking at. But they may not be true to sort of what, my eyes are seeing, right? It's going to add that punch and that saturation and sort of, sharpening or clarity, whatever it needs to make that image look pleasing to the eye. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Exactly. And think about products like Coca-Cola. If you take a picture with 5 different cameras of a Coca-Cola bottle, that accurate Coca-Cola red is going to be 5 different shades of red.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're hitting on a really important point here, which is that good profiling, one goal or consequence of doing this right is that regardless of if it's done perfectly, regardless of what camera you're using or what display you're using, when we talk about display profiles, you're going to get the same result from whatever object I'm shooting to whatever monitor I'm using. If I take a picture of a rare document on my IXG, like a phase 1 camera here in the US, and somebody in China takes a picture on their phase 1 XF, let's say, with a different digital back, as long as we have proper profiles, ICC profiles, input profiles, if we take our individual images and send them to a scholar in Egypt, or wherever, if they look at those files given proper, a proper display, they're going to see identical images, and they're going to get not, just like gorgeous, punchy, saturated, contrasty, sharp images, but images that are true to the object itself, right? That are going to show me, the color of the paper or the fading of the ink or the different pigments in there, right? So that's kind of the consequence of proper color profiling, right?
Exactly. We're going to try to make a colorimeter out of every camera. So that's like the equivalent of using an expensive measurement instrument so that we can take a picture of a piece of art with 5 different cameras and get 5 identical results.
Perfect. So now that we've kind of covered, what our goal is and what this is going to do for us, how exactly do we do that? What does the process look like?
There are many different color targets that contain a sufficient amount of different colors that we can photograph. And the manufacturer of these targets have measured these with expensive spectrophotometers. And so we have data sets, an RGB data set when we capture that target with a camera, and an objective XYZ, which is related to LAB, color space, device-independent color, measured color, that we can transform this RGB data into. And this mathematical transformation gets encoded in a standard profile, like an ICC profile or a DCP profile for Adobe Camera Raw products.
Yeah, and so this is actually another important point that you bring up, which is on kind of what we were talking about with the interoperability. You're talking about using different types of software, whether it's Capture One or an Adobe product, or using multiple cameras or multiple targets. So it sounds like you are essentially device agnostic, right?
Completely.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, here at DT, we're kind of phase one centric in terms of the cameras that we use, but a lot of our clients will be using cameras from different manufacturers. I know you support a couple of targets that we're particularly fond of. The DT Next Generation target and the ISA targets. But you also support things like the Color Checker SG. And so, if I'm at the DT studio using like a phase one IXH and, a DT Next Generation target, I can use the same software and create a similar profile to somebody that's using maybe a Canon camera and a Color Checker, X-Rite target or something like that. And the results, may not be necessarily of the same quality given the number of patches or the quality of those patches and the measurements, but they're still going to be able to generate, really good profiles that are going to be better and more descriptive and true to life than sort of just the out of the box profiles that are provided in my Adobe or my, Capture One software.
Exactly. So we support over 40 targets, and in essence, all targets that are available, because if we haven't supported them yet, we will add them at no cost if a user comes with a new target.
Perfect. That's great. So, okay, I'm an institution, and now I've got my camera, I've got my target, and so what do? I take a picture of this target, and then I feed it into the software.
Lighting is really important. So the lighting should really be set up perfectly, and then you capture the target, and we have some guidelines for that. And then you feed it into the software, into a preset that we either create for you already, or you create your own. There are some parameters that you can customize, but it's a very simple process, and we'll demonstrate it to you. And you see how easy it is. That create a profile, get a very quick evaluation how good it is, and that profile gets registered with the system and is immediately available in the software that you're using to capture and to manipulate your imagery.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like once you get the, the target, the camera, and as you mentioned, your lighting setup, you just take a picture and kind of plug and play. Do you want to kind of run us through what that looks like?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
So, Franz, walk me through what we're looking at here right now. So this is the newest version of basICColor input, right?
Correct. And when you install it, you can already tell the installer which targets you have, and then we create presets for these targets. So in this case, this is one of the most common ones, the color checker SG.
Yep.
And for each target, we have reference data, measured data that we either get mostly from the manufacturer, or some of them that we have done on our own with a higher quality instrument. In this case, we actually measured this target with a Konica Minolta FD7. And this is from a customer of ours, painter and photographer, Christopher Campbell.
Yes.
And he's gracious enough. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, also a client of ours. He has a wonderful, I believe it's an IT3100 trichromatic back, and of course is an extremely talented painter. So I assume we're going to see some really nice imagery in a little bit.
Yes, he was kind enough to let us use his captures, and basically it's as easy as you click on that and we load an IIQ file. That's a raw file directly from his camera.
Yeah, so this works on raw files, right?
Totally, on all the latest models of raw files from all the kinds of different cameras.
It can also work on TIFFs or, God forbid, JPEGs, but
yes,
you can use 16-bit data or 14-bit, 12-bit raw.
Correct. The two most commonly used applications are Capture One, in which you export a TIFF,
right,
and the other one is Adobe applications and some others that interpret raw. So for all raw files, we make DCP profiles. And as you see here at the bottom, it says already DCP. So in this case, we loaded the raw, so we'll make a DCP profile. We find the corners automatically, and we evaluate the light distribution. So the green patches around the whites are compared against each other, and we can see that this is perfectly evenly lit. And the blacks here are a challenge because they are semi-glossy, and as such are even more important than the whites, because if these come in too bright, then the profiles are not going to be very good.
I see.
So we can look at, they should have a lightness value of which is equivalent in here to raw. We interpret it as % to 8, and you can see that they're very, very close to that value. And the whites are supposed to be around 95, and so they are just perfect. And we can just say, go make this profile now. Now we create that mathematical transformation, and boom, we're done. We show you the 90% percentile. That means in Delta E 2000, in evaluation of this quality control mechanism, here we use the latest, the ISO 19264, highest level, and so this is fully compliant. And you can check on each of these patches what the Delta E is. These 6 patches are especially significant because they're used for our automatic color correction, where we add another 6 in between, and so we get an absolutely perfect result that we can use right away.
And let me just kind of maybe try and translate this into a pedestrian level for myself, my own edification here. So you've taken this picture. It's automatically selected, the area where my target is, and if it didn't do it accurately, I can do that myself, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then it took the white and black patches and said, okay, these need to all be equivalent to each other in order to confirm that my illumination from my lighting is uniform, right?
Right.
And in this case, because it's Chris Campbell, of course, he set it up in a way that it was. But he just gave you this image, you dropped it in there, you hit one button, and it created this DCP profile, which it's now showing us. And these green squares, I'm assuming, mean that they fall within the range. And you've said, you have different standards. In this one, you chose an ISO profile. It also supports, I'm assuming, Fagi and Metamorphosa.
Yes, Metamorphosis, the old European
right
standard, and Fagi is in here as well. And we can do custom as well. So, and you can look at the preferences, and they show you actually what the individual criteria is for these different mechanisms.
Yeah, and so then you also mentioned Delta E2000. So Delta E2000 is just a way of measuring color deviation from a value, right? So color error.
Exactly.
And that will be determined by the standard that you're using, and then you can set a threshold to 90%, right?
Correct. So one Delta E2000 is supposed to be the color difference that our human eye just barely notices.
Okay, I see.
So we're striving for 0 error,
right?
But here we are at an error of 0.7 at 50%. So this is an absolutely fabulous profile.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Well, I mean, that seems simple enough. Once I have this profile, where does it go? What do I need to do from here?
Okay, so here now I loaded a painting of Christopher into Adobe Camera Raw, in fact, into Photoshop, and then it comes up with Camera Raw. And this is the default. This is Adobe Color.
Okay.
And then
and so again, when we're talking about the default profile, this is what Adobe or Phase One, or in this case Adobe, but whatever they've done to take an image that came in from their camera and make it look nice and punchy and colorful and pleasing to the eye, right?
Correct.
And it does, if you take a look at it, it does look a little bit blown out, in the whites. It does look a little bit, maybe saturated in the blues. And so theoretically, when we apply the profile we just made, our image may not look as, as pretty, so to speak, but it should be kind of more accurate to, if I'm holding Christopher's painting, and then I'm looking at this on my display, assuming everything is properly calibrated, I should see like the same, digital surrogate for that painting, right?
Exactly. All the museums in the world today have the challenge to digitally archive their originals. And that's really what this application is used for the most, to get a fast, super accurate representation of your artwork. And that's why then we switched to this profile we just made. And this now is very, very different.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this is here, if you, for example, have a pigment in your painting that for whatever reason is not interpreted 100% correctly by the profile, you can actually do an interactive color correction. So I'm going to do something that is exaggerating. I'm going to make the blues very greenish. And you see here instantly a new profile was created and all the dark blues are very much greenish. I go hit reset here and it goes back to the original color.
Yeah, wow. That's so it's done dynamically. I can make changes on the fly and see actually in real time what the updated profile looks like.
Exactly.
Very cool. Um,
So this is really
wow.
input
I mean,
in a nutshell. You can do many, many more things. You can combine targets. Like here is one where a monthly-linear grayscale is being used in addition to the color checker SG.
mhm.
And here are the ISA targets. We have
Multi-thread targets.
the DT next generation target in here. You name it, and you can
Yeah,
combine them to your liking.
very cool. Um, wow. Well, I mean, that's incredibly simple. I mean, you get your target, you get your camera, you set up your lighting, you take a capture, drop that. You can drop the raw file. You don't need to output or export or do anything into basICColor, and it pretty much auto detects the target. And you hit one button, you get your profile. And as you know, it's ready to just use directly in Capture One or Photoshop. Um, there's not much else to say there. I mean, that's phenomenal, and it's very straightforward. So, yeah, I mean, this is absolutely something that you can do at the beginning of the year. Very quickly, just kind of check and verify that your input profiles are good, and it's incredibly simple. So, Franz, I think we'll provide obviously DT's contact information. You guys know how to reach us. But if folks have questions, can they also get in contact with you?
Absolutely. I love to talk to clients or potential clients. In fact, I usually get to talk to the most difficult cases when things don't work 100% or so, and that I've done that over the years, and it's made this product better and better every year.
Yeah, and I mean, just I don't know if we've really mentioned this, but Franz is the one-man army, right? I mean, you are the one doing all of this stuff, right? So if a client comes in and says, who do I need to talk to get this feature integrated? It's you. You're the one that's going to be, talking about the feature, but also going in the back end and building any new, features into the program.
That is correct. I've created color management software for 30 years now. So, and I'm still having fun doing better and better quality.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Franz. And I think we'll leave it there. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us, I think, so late in your time zone. But it was an absolute pleasure to have you. And we look forward to hearing from folks who are watching this and taking any questions or comments or feedback that you guys have.
Thanks for having me, and everybody, wonderful 2021.
That's right. Take care.